I wanted to know what you thought. I wanted to know you. I wanted to connect to you. You're all scum. You're real scum, all of you. All the lies and all the slander. All the people framing, holding your frame. You framed me. You framed me. You framed me. You framed me. I was just sitting here and I'm like, I can't make you stop. You framed me, you monsters. You all work together to frame me. I hate you.
Some of you may have seen a video recently titled "You Framed Me." Described as a legendary algorithm pull, one day a video would begin appearing in people's feeds of Ian Foote, a 49-year-old man from Canada who is currently living in Toronto. Ian claims to be a coder, artist, veteran, and family man, who has made massive contributions to the human race. Only problem is that a lot of this is a lie. Ian is extremely delusional and extremely narcissistic, making up grandiose tales of his past. But by watching every single Ian Foote video he posted, and reading a great many of his posts, I believe I have assembled the bits of truth, the pieces of the story that Ian likes to gloss over or completely lie about, and the dark reality behind his character. Because Ian is even worse than most people thought, stalking young business owners, attacking people on the street, and having many interactions with police, all the while believing that he is some great pillar of the community, and that he was not only an amazing husband, but father as well. We would know none of this if not for the fact that Ian posts most of his thoughts on the internet. Between his Quora page, personal website, and YouTube channel, there are dozens of hours of content, a lot of which has been lost to time as Ian has had YouTube channels deleted before. But due to him posting over 200 videos on his new channel, I've been able to piece together a good chunk of the story. And one of his most telling videos happens to be his first. Ian would describe a Christmas that he spent with his family. He had a massive home, all paid for with his riches from software development. He recalls walking down the stairs Christmas morning, arms filled with gifts for his wife, daughter, mother, and siblings. He describes the immense feeling of pride that he had being the patriarch of this family, everyone having extreme love and respect for him. Only problem is, none of this ever happened. In fact, Ian is estranged from every person I just mentioned, and then some. Bad for Ian, but extremely convenient for me, as the process from which he became estranged to this family makes it very easy for me to tell this story chronologically, because as the years rolled on, Ian would lose more and more people, falling deeper into madness. And like most great psychological tales, it all begins in his childhood. Those of you who have a previous knowledge of Ian know that he hates women with a passion. We will discuss this in an upcoming segment, but I want to bring it up now because it ties into Ian's childhood massively. Based off of this hate of women, you would think that Ian had a very poor relationship with his mother, but it's actually Ian's father who receives most of the blame. Ian has described his father as a terrible husband and dad. One of the things that seems to have stuck with Ian from his childhood was the fact that his father had a mistress. Ian would talk about the times that his father would bring him with to meet his mistress, using him as some kind of cover so the mom wouldn't get suspicious. His dad would have candid conversations about the situation to a very young Ian, who was very disturbed at the concept. Ian loved his mother so much growing up, calling her the ideal housewife. All of that changed when she discovered his father's girlfriend. Ian will also blame this on her job as an elderly care nurse, but either way, he says that something changed in his mom, and that she became more manipulative and less loving as his childhood progressed. Ian says that every social connection he made growing up came through an honors society. I have always assumed honors societies to be for students with exemplar grades, but Ian describes these things as wrestling, capoeira, and salsa dancing, going as far to say that he is a 4-time provisional wrestling champion. A quick Google search will show you that there was no wrestling prodigy by the name of Ian Foote anywhere in the country, and that all of this is likely another one of Ian's delusions. I do believe that he participated in some wrestling, however, because he says one of the most impactful moments of his childhood was when he won the championship, that he was put into a pool of over 20 fighting men, and he was determined the strongest. Ian was extremely sad over the fact that his father would attend none of his wrestling matches, chalking it up to him spending time with his mistress instead of with his son. Ian says that his father wasn't very interested in him, and that when Ian began to display an affinity for computers, his father had no time for it, as it made him feel stupid.
I remember when my parents broke up. I remember when my father was cheating on my mother. I remember my father talking to me man to man because he had no one else to talk to. But you know something? I was a wrestling champion. I was a champion. I was 4-time provincial champion. That's interesting. That's not just interesting because it's my responsibility to be interested in my kids. I was a champion. They put me in a pool with more than 40 men, and I was the toughest. Twice. That's interesting. Why did he give a shit? Why did he want to come and see me fight? He never came to see me fight. I was the toughest man in the country! Pound for pound? My age? Tough as there was! He wasn't even interested in seeing me fight!
At 17, Ian decided to join the Canadian Infantry, or at least that's what he's claimed. I've seen absolutely no proof, saying that he served in the military until he received an honorable discharge because of a car accident that he had gotten into. The next big thing to happen to Ian would be when he met his first common-law wife, Selena. Selena was an immigrant from Australia who had not yet achieved full Canadian citizenship. Shortly after Ian and Selena met, she would fall pregnant, eventually having their daughter, Karis. He calls this woman his common-law wife, and being the regarded imbecile that I am, I immediately thought of Workaholics, a Comedy Central TV show about 3 losers living together. One of my favorite shows. I bring this up because during an episode they talk about the fact that they had spent 7 years together as roommates, and that by law this made them all married. So I seriously thought that he had spent over 7 years with this woman, until I looked up the definition of common law partner in Canadian law. In Canada, after cohabiting a home with a person for over a year, they're considered your common law partner and can take you to the cleaners for it, meaning that if the relationship ends in a negative way, this common law partnership can get quite messy legally and financially. It just feels like a very short amount of time to know someone for the government to legally declare them your partner and allow them to use that against you in court if they so please. You're probably asking yourself, but Kiwi, why are we even discussing this? Surely Ian and his wife rode off into the sunset and are still together. Sorry to disappoint, but Ian's views on women as a whole aren't really very helpful when it comes to maintaining a relationship. I have never seen another person online hate women so much. Like a deep hatred in his soul for the whole gender. Please keep in mind before I get into any of this that these are the views of Ian Foote and not in any way, shape, or form my own. Ian detests the idea of gender equality, and detests even more when women try to stand up to him. He believes that they are insignificant and should submit to him in any way, shape, and form he pleases. Ian's reasoning for this is quote-unquote primal, that this is the purpose of life and the natural order of things. He in particular hates the women of the city he lives in, Toronto, the most, describing them as prideful and independent, two negative things in the mind of Ian Foote. Ian has said that it doesn't even matter if a woman likes him, he hates her, and wants to do horrible things as a result. He has also said in the past that he doesn't want a romantic partner, just a piece of meat, and that he would leave a woman rather than share power with her. The ideal woman in Ian Foote's mind is what he calls a doormat housewife, while he tries to paint it as a traditional 1950s style nuclear family relationship. The reality of it would be much darker, and when he really starts describing what he's after in a romantic partner, it starts to sound more and more like he wants a slave, someone who will bend to his will with absolute certainty, only living to serve him.
Oh, we're the equal of men. I don't care. Do you realize how irrelevant your accomplishment is to us? How insignificant you are? How little we care? How insignificant it is? How that we no respect for you. No respect for you. It just boggles my mind. I show that I'm as strong as a man. All I care about is, will you suck my d? Will you make me a sandwich? Will you give me babies? Will you be a bitch?
His admissions are very disturbing and reveal his capability of committing some pretty unspeakable things. The reason I went off on this tirade at this point in the video is because we're about to talk about his first marriage and his time spent as a father. The fact that he has a daughter is even more disturbing after what I just told you. Ian and his first wife Selena got married in a shotgun wedding after she became pregnant. Ian has described his relationship with Selena as cold, stating that she was not very interested in the marriage and really only there because they shared a child. All of this eventually led to her having an affair with her boss of a telemarketing company, and once Ian found out, he had a meltdown. Ian said that his ex-wife and her boss then began to spread nasty rumors about him around town, and there was much contention over their shared custody. One incident that really stuck with Ian is a self-described kidnapping. One day after work, Ian went to pick up his daughter from daycare, only to find that the mother had beat him to it. In response to this, Ian would call the police and they would travel to the mother's new home. When the police talked to Selena, they assessed that the child was in no danger, and said that they could do nothing to help Ian retrieve her. In fact, if he did attempt to take her, they would arrest him. This, amongst many other incidents, had led to a nasty custody battle over Ian's daughter. And during this custody battle, it seemed that Ian's own family was against him. You know how I said that Ian was estranged from all of his family? Well, this also includes his father, brother, and sister. His relationship with his sister soured when he told her one day that he had no respect for her lifestyle. She is the exact opposite of what Ian sees as a true woman, both independent and not interested in children. After telling her one day that he believed she had biologically failed, their relationship degraded, eventually leading to his sister testifying against him in the custody battle. His brother, though he wouldn't have a part in the custody situation, would still have a terrible run-in with Ian. One day, Ian went to help his brother move. After Ian perceived his brother as trying to act better than him, they got into a fight, one so brutal that Ian attempted to rip out his brother's eye. Like I said, Ian is our primary source of information, so finding the truth of the matter is very difficult. Ian says that he didn't try to rip out his brother's eye, but his brother still complained of a scratched cornea. This is a little tip to anybody trying to figure out the truth behind Ian's situation. attention. Listen to his stories and particularly focus on the moments where he paints himself as a victim. He will leave out a lot of moments in an attempt to portray himself that way. Needless to say, that was the end of the relationship with his brother. The end of things with his brother didn't seem to bother Ian much. It was an incident with his father that he found most impactful. During the custody battle, Ian would go to see his father. Ian claims it was to get help with the custody battle. He then gives us no other information aside from the fact that his father struck him in the head with a shovel, resulting in police having to take Ian away. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to Ian's stories. There is a thin veil of lies and secrecy hidden over the truth. It appears that Ian's father defended himself because it was Ian who was taken away by the cops. He describes this moment as one of the most pivotal in his life, saying it is both the reason he hates his father and no longer has custody of his daughter. But as usual, we can infer a great many truths amongst Ian's lies, especially when he describes his relationship with his daughter. He starts off by saying that he tried to impose his view of an idyllic woman upon her. During one video in particular, Ian pops off about how he didn't want his daughter to do anything but get married young, saying that he would actively try to prevent her from having adventures until she was married. So that way, instead of going out and meeting a ton of men, she would meet her husband and go on adventures with him. He openly says that he wanted his daughter to be a doormat housewife and to fulfill her traditional roles as a woman. It seems like Ian was extremely controlling and manipulative of his daughter, seeing her as more of a project than a person. Ian would also bring up a number of concerning things that he had done during some of his stories. The first one would be the fact that one day his daughter missed breakfast, that there was some sort of strike on trucking and he could not go out and get food for her that day, saying that this was used against him in court. And when you look at Ian, this is extremely believable. The guy seems fueled by beer and cigarettes. He would also talk about a water gun fight that he and his daughter had in the snow, saying that he filled up a bunch of water guns with warm water and went out into the snow spraying each other with them. I don't know if this is some kind of unknown Canadian pastime that I've never heard of, but it sounds like a really good way to catch a cold. From what Ian has said, he seems like one of the most irresponsible fathers I have ever heard of, trying to paint freezing and starving her as some sort of happy childhood memory, so I can't say that I'm shocked she ended up wanting to live with her mother. And after leaving Ian, they would eventually move back to her home nation of Australia. Ian would neither see nor hear from his daughter ever again, and because of this, today he holds her in great contempt, wishing some absolutely evil things upon her.
I wanted her to be able to marry while she's young, have a honeymoon period where she's out having all these exciting young adventures with her husband. See, that's how it's supposed to be, right? I didn't raise her to be independent. I didn't want her to have an education and a career. I didn't want her to be independent. I didn't want her to have adventures while she was young. I really, really, really wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. All she had to do was spend time with me and tell me the truth. Back before it was too late. Before my mind started going. All she had to do was come and tell me the truth. Spend time with me and tell the truth. I could have showed her all the evidence. I could have showed her all the evidence that we needed. And together, we could have beat them. But she wouldn't speak to me. She wouldn't spend time with me. She wouldn't be honest with me. She wouldn't be real with me. And I'll hate her for the rest of my life. I will hate her for the rest of my life.
Ian's rage is fueled by his delusions, and before we go further on the timeline, I would like to thoroughly explain them to you, because they are very deep and quite intricate. Ian believes himself to be one of the most influential software developers of our generation, claiming to work for dozens of tech companies in various roles. While it seems that Ian does have a loose knowledge of tech and coding, there is absolutely no evidence of him being involved in any of these companies, two of which he is extremely proud of working for: Clearwater Foods, a food distribution company, and Pfizer, a medical company. Ian says that he has done instrumental work for both of them, that he developed translation technologies for Pfizer's medications, and all of the programs that Clearwater Foods used to use in their factories. Because of this, Ian sees himself as some great savior of humanity, someone who should be given whatever they want because of the impact that they've had on the world. Ian will often say that he brought food and medicine to the women and the children, and this is what he means: that through his work for these companies he is some kind of global hero, and he believes that through this work he has made millions of dollars, all of which was taken during the legal processes with his baby mama. Ian says that before he lost all of his money, he wanted to start a commune for artists, that he would buy a piece of land and build cottages all over it, allowing sculptors, artists, and poets into it to stay. There he would also grow a number of berries and fruits, and he planned to hire elderly people to come pick them at their leisure, selling the fruits at market and providing a valuable source of jobs to the community. I tried to imagine what this peaceful berry-picking commune would look like, but I only see Slab City.
Not only do I have the capacity to kick your ass, but also I have made huge contributions to bringing medicine and food to the women and the children. Not only do I have the capacity to kick your ass, I have also made huge contributions and played a pivotal role in bringing medicine and food to the women and the children.
I went off on this little tangent about Ian's delusions because I believe they play a big part in his rage. Ian doesn't just think that his daughter's been taken, but also his riches, so he has a special hate in his heart for Selena. And after all of the stuff you heard him talk about, you might think that he would never be with another woman. But this was far from the case, because soon after ending things with his first wife, he would find another. Her name was Shannon, and I really wish I could say that things went better this time. Ian said that Shannon was very small and very thin. She ran a website for people who had trouble eating, and worked in graphic design. Ian also said that her apartment was a flea and roach pit. Shannon came into the picture when Ian still had partial custody of his daughter, and she operated as the stepmother. So when he says that she had a flea-ridden, roach-infested apartment, I doubt that her boyfriend Ian's living conditions were much better, and it becomes a little bit more clear why even Ian's family sided against him during the custody battle. Ian and Shannon would spend quite a few years together in a relationship. Shannon had a partial hysterectomy and was unable to have children of her own, so they wanted to hire a surrogate, and after Ian quote-unquote lost his money, he could no longer afford it. And just like with his previous wife, he would discover her cheating on him, and somehow this time it was even worse. Ian would find his wife sleeping with a man who was part of a group called freeganism. Freegans are, from what I have come to understand, basically homeless people. They eat things that have been thrown out by others and live a generally unbound lifestyle. So this cut very deep into Ian's uber alpha persona, that his wife preferred a man of such little means. After discovering what Shannon had done, he went down to the vacated house that the Freegans were staying at. He calmly walked there like the Terminator, all the while Shannon was following him, and right before he entered the house, she ran in to warn her lover. Ian says that the man ran away like a coward, but one of his roommates thought that Ian was an intruder and broke a chair over Ian's head. Of course, Ian shrugged it off and had a polite conversation with his assailant, only for the police to arrive and take Ian away. Another case of Ian giving us half the story and us having to piece together the rest. I personally believe that Ian received a beating and was taken away by police for forcefully entering this man's home. Either way, this was the end of his relationship with Shannon and the beginning of his time alone. Ian claims that he had to move all over the country to follow his baby mama in the custody battle, eventually finding himself in Toronto. And this is where the story starts to get pretty dark. In 2022, an article would be posted to Toronto.com, and I would like to thank a fellow YouTuber, JV, for bringing this to my attention. As far as I've been able to gather, this is the first guy to even find this piece of info out, so be sure to go check out his Ian Foote videos if you get the time. The article is titled "Toronto Police Searching for a Male Suspect After Woman SA'd at a West End TTC Stop." A 20-year-old woman got off work and was waiting for the streetcar when a man whose picture looks extremely similar to Ian's made numerous inappropriate comments towards her, then allegedly attacking her, only to stop when 3 Good Samaritans tried to help her. The assailant, who is described as around 45 years old, then ran off into the night. I've seen no other mention of this incident, but if you compare this photo next to a photo of Ian at the time, both the length and color of their beard match, as well as a great number of facial features. Either Ian has an evil doppelganger running around Toronto, or he actually did this. It's sad to say, but after watching all of his videos, I see him as extremely capable of this. In fact, he was capable of even worse. After him and Shannon broke up, Ian had nothing and no one. He planned to sell all of his worldly possessions and move to Brazil, stating that it was a bastion of traditional gender values. I don't think that this was Ian's plan. I believe he could no longer live with Shannon and had to bum around on his buddies' couches, almost all of which would kick him out for creepy comments that he made about women. During this period of his life, Ian felt that he had nothing. All that mattered to him was that he had wealth and a family, and believed that he had been robbed of both. Ian never thought that he would find love again. That is, until he walked into a bar and fell in love with its owner. This love, more like attraction, was not a two-way street. The bar owner saw Ian as only a customer. He was almost twice her age. Ian said that he tried to spend as much time as possible alone with her. In his videos, he will often refer to her as that little Vietnamese woman and romanticize the relationship that they had, which, as I've said before, was non-existent. I believe a pivotal moment in this quote-unquote relationship was when Ian found a couple compromising photos of her online. Ian said that she had taken the photos in years previous to promote a certain business, and that when he tracked them down, he was enraged. He would bring these illicit images to the bar owner, telling her that he wanted to purchase the copyright to it so that he could destroy all of them. She was mortified that Ian now had these photos of her, and the next day Ian said they would all disappear from the internet. I don't know if this really happened, but if it did, it's extremely creepy to tell her that you want to buy the rights to her photographs. For normal reasons, of course. She had to have been terrified. I'm sure this is just one of the many things that Ian had done to make her uncomfortable. Eventually, all of this would come to a head. One day, Ian would bring her a Christmas present. I'll let him describe what he got, because he would further explain the situation in his YouTube comments section. I gave her a pendant hand-carved out of an amethyst into the shape of an anatomically correct human skull on a silver chain, and a $250 gift certificate to Body Blitz Spa in a gift bag with my phone number tucked inside in case she had lost it. Ian says that the woman then began stalking him. This is in fact not what happened. I know it's a shocker, right? What really happened was the bar owner had a negative reaction to this gift, and Ian had an even worse reaction to that, causing him to either be trespassed or, more likely, get a restraining order against him from the bar owner. She had grown terrified of Ian, and rightly so, as it seemed he was stalking her, learning her work hours and being there when he could spend the most alone time with her, even getting mad at the dishwasher for being near them. Despite the restraining order, Ian would still pursue her. The conditions of the order said that he could not contact her in any way, shape, or form, but in a moment of weakness, he called her on his birthday. He says that they talked for hours about life, their relationship, and business at the bar. He said that all he wanted was to have dinner with a pretty girl for his birthday, and if she said no, he would just go and ask a prettier girl. After the conversation with the bar owner, which I don't believe was a conversation, most likely just a voicemail from Ian, he would go home and rest up for his birthday, and was awoken at 2 a.m. by the police, who said that he was in violation of his restraining order and had to be taken to jail. Ian would not enjoy his time in jail.
The woman that kept calling the cops on me, she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. Full stop. She made it too dangerous. She made it too dangerous to communicate. But the fact is, the truth is, that she was the woman that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. When I wasn't with her, I couldn't wait to see her again. That was just the reality of my life. For all those months when I was with her, I just wanted to be with her. I was so happy being with her. I loved her, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. Downtown Toronto to Markham, and the reason that I chose to live there is so that I could be close to that little Vietnamese woman, the one that owned the bar. I chose where I lived so that I could be close to her. I went there every single day. I loved that woman. Wanted to be around her. She was all I could think about, was being with her. I truly believed that I had found the woman that I had spent my entire life looking for. I went there as soon as the place opened, because I didn't want to be there when the place was packed and she was too busy serving customers to spend time with me. I wanted to spend time with her. I wanted one-on-one, undivided attention.
After getting into some trouble, Ian claimed that he was thrown in the hole for 2 months straight and forgotten about. And when he finally did face a judge, he was released with no charges. Ian claims that this will all be part of a massive class action lawsuit against the jail, and that he should be getting somewhere around 80 grand for it. Another one of Ian's many delusions. And I gotta say, Ian in the current day is more delusional than ever before in his timeline. Ian believes that he is a master of numerous martial arts forms and could kick any of the trolls' asses down in the comments. He is also more broken than ever before, talking about the past and how he will never reach those heights again. As I'm sure you've been able to tell, Ian Foote is a rage-filled, miserable man who is doing nothing with his life. He wants to think himself as a man who has made massive contributions to humanity, and that people should appreciate him for this, but feels robbed by the entire world. Through a combination of ego and delusion, Ian has crafted an exuberant past for himself, one where he had everything that he dreams of in the current day. Ian wants to believe that there are numerous women that just did him wrong, when in reality there are numerous women who live in fear of Ian. Some of these women have even involved the police. Ian wants people to believe that he is the victim of a cruel society that will no longer accept a person like him, blaming a world that he has actively tried to remove himself from. Ian hates absolutely everyone and believes that there is no hope left in this world for him. This makes Ian extremely dangerous. In his own mind, he has nothing to lose, and he has been reported numerous times for comments that he has made on YouTube. I believe he said the police have showed up almost 5 times now in relations to his statements on the platform, and I see absolutely no signs of that stopping. Ian has been this way for a very long time, and only seems to have gotten worse. Ian's current mentality makes him capable of doing almost anything, all while truly believing in his heart that he is the victim. If something is not done about him soon, I fear what the future of this story may look like.
The sword is hanging over your heads. The sword is hanging over your heads. I have alibis and piss tests. The sword is hanging over your head. You wrote checks that your body can't cash. And the interest is accumulating. And I will be paid my due.